weeks has gone by, and it's a miserable blooming day outside. I thought I'd do a bit of a video. I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning, airport work and all that, so thought Saturday afternoon to myself, and then I can get out, do a bit in the workshop, get rid of a few cobwebs in the workshop as well while I'm at it. There isn't a great deal to talk about this time round because, well, depends how you look at it. There isn't that much to talk about in progress on the tender because I've been doing these. I'm going to bring it in quite close. You can see these 2 rounds here. I've been doing a lot of machining. I've just taken the actual pot out. See where I've counterbored it there. So I've been doing a lot of those, cutting off those bits of bar to put in there. Obviously there's a number of the horn guides to do, so I've stripped them back off the tender and cut them up, and I'm laying them in a row ready to JB weld them in. So they're all at the same stage then, ready for me to do the next part of work on there. It's a time consuming process to do all these little cuts and everything like that, and then glue them in, and then shape the glue or the bonding agent, however you want to look at it. It's basically a metal glue, but to shape that so it fills up and makes it the casting look as one, it's a fiddly old process. So I'm kind of gonna get a row of them ready and then glue them all in one go. So that's what's progressing on there. Not much else has happened on the tender, I'll be honest. I'm pleased to tell you though that I've got my drawing done, and that's gone off to Ed, ready for me to collect at the show. So if you're at the show and you see me wandering around, I won't be carrying the frames around with me all day, because that will just look weird and a bit of an attention seeking thing, I think. But if you do see me heading back out the door, that'll be me buggering off home with my new purchased loco frames. But there's a couple of bits that I've had come through from Ed in readiness for the loco frames to turn up. This is one of them, and I've left it as it's arrived, and that is the front horizontal stretcher for the engine. Now you'll see it's got a funny shape there and a funny shape there. There's a couple of holes in it back here, and if anyone has seen this drawing, the works drawing for this, there's also should be some holes here, and that is for the, I think it's for the AWS equipment. There was a cylinder or something got bolted in here, but only to, I think it was only to a Western engine that they got put in here. I've admitted them all together because I'm not going to be fitting anything like that, even if it isn't going to be working. It wasn't a Western engine, so I don't need to include that, and it does say on the actual works drawings for Western engines only. So there's no holes there at all for that to be bolted in. You can see the ends here. These are going to create the uprights all the way around it, so it looks like it's been folded. They'll get silver soldered in, and then that's pretty much ready. There's not much to that in theory. It's a big old bit of kit, as you can tell, you know, scale of my head stroke thing. It's a big piece. It's going to take quite a bit of heat to solder that up, but I'm confident with what I've done on the tender that I'm sure I can get enough heat into that to solder those runs on. Another one I've had come through from Ed is that one. Now this one is, or will become, a stretcher that fits in front of the firebox on the loco. It's completely admitted from the Dick Stockings published drawings. So, and if you did your loco to those drawings, you wouldn't be able to fit this in, because as I said, I don't know, a few videos ago, He's put 2 horizontal stretchers in his drawings. The Loco only had one. It had one horizontal, long one like that. The vertical stretcher between the motion plates, then it had this little stretcher that's at the top, and then there's obviously another one between the horn guides on the Loco. Now, funny thing with this one, I completely cocked it up when I sent it off. I sent it off I think I probably did it in a rush and I wasn't concentrating, or I'd been on a early hours airport and thought I'd do a bit of drawing. And what I cocked up on this is the top plate that's there and the bottom plate that's there. I didn't leave enough slot in it there and there for those 2 webs to come through. Now I've tied it together with a bit of iron wire. It has all got to come apart for me to flux it up, but I thought I'd just leave it wired together so you get an idea of what it looks like. Essentially, this plate, which has got this top piece on, that plate that goes all the way across with those big holes in there, that is all one piece, which includes that little web there and that little web there, that little web up there. That is all one plate. This one here, that's just bloody run out. Right, sorry about that. Got sidetracked because my microphone went off and I saw the light flashing. So hopefully you can hear me again. I've changed the microphones to one with a different bloody knob on it. It's not a knob, it's a furry thing like you can see. Anyway, where was I saying? This stretcher, that's all one piece, webs, yeah, bit on the top. That plate there, this piece, and this one under here, this piece, are 2 separate pieces, and there's slots in the end, both ends. Yeah, you can see there's a slot there and a slot there, slot there and a slot there. That allows obviously that to slide in at either end. I didn't get the cut right here to here and underneath, so I had to go at it with a hacksaw, lengthen it a little bit, and then run the file in to get it nice and smooth and everything so it fitted. So that was one cock up. That obviously the ends, you can see there where the tabs come through the back of it. Yeah, so that all will make one nice strong piece. There's another bit that goes with it. This piece actually gets on the full size would have been welded on the underside there, like so. There. I had a tab from this center plate. I had a tab that was long enough to go through that plate, stick through enough for that to go onto, so I could solder that nice and square in the bottom of there. I've had to file it off because some numbnuts didn't put the slot in for that. There we go. Mistakes get made, and especially if you've done a 3 o'clock in the morning airport run and decide that you've got an hour before you do your next job, you'll do a bit of drawing, send off a file, and don't check it first. So anyway, that's those 2 bits. They're back. They'll get soldered up at some point when I'm doing a bit of soldering, and then they'll be put into primer and whatnot and a bit of undercoat just to keep the rust at bay, because with this rain it's bound to start happening soon again. So yeah, so they'll get done, and then that'll make a good addition to the Loco frames. For, yes, you heard me say in the last video, I'll put them on show somewhere. For when they go on show, the Loco frames will be in front. There'll be a couple of stretchers that'll hold the frames together. For those that know me personally, you'll know that I put on my personal Facebook page about a Foundry, a good Foundry that I could use to get some castings done, one-offs and you know, some run work or whatever. Hopefully I've found one local to me that's willing to do what I want them to do, and fingers crossed, I get to go and see them on Monday. Fingers crossed, if they come good, I can get my wagon wheels cast again, and also as well as I can get the Loco patterns that I have done, that I've made, I can have them cast ready for when the engine needs it. I've got a few patterns. The ones I've got here physically to show you is those two. Now you'll know what they are, or if you don't know what they are the motion brackets for the loco. These are done to the Dick Stockings drawing. So and you're thinking, well, why are you doing that when you're doing everything to Works drawings? That's an expensive pattern, and that's an expensive pattern just to throw in the bin because you're not going to use them. And as well as, if you remember when I first started this, it was going to be a bit of a mix between Works drawings and the Dick Stockings drawings. This is one of those parts that's going to work because I've drawn it that way. So even though you'll see on the loco frames everything, every rivet hole that's in it and every tapped hole that's going to go in it is pretty much as per full size. The motion brackets will also work in with those rivet holes and everything that I've put in. So as daft as that sounds, it's going to work out right without me having to redraw the cylinders, redraw these, although there isn't much detail on the Dick Stockings published drawings for these. There's datum points for when it comes to machining, but actual thickness of material or anything like that, there isn't anything there. So I've had to go on what's already published, compare it to Works drawings, and then shove the detail around to make it work. It shouldn't affect anything distance wise for the slide bars or anything like that, or where the motion's going to basically bolt to it. It shouldn't make much of a difference, but I will calculate it first. Once I've had these cast and I know how much material I've got to take off in certain places, I'll plumb those dimensions into my drawing. And then if I've got to change, for instance, the radius rod length, or I don't know, the two trunnion brackets that bolt to it in the back, if they've got to be shimmed out a little bit, it does say on the Dick Stockings drawings to shim it as required. But if I can machine them so that they're dead on, I won't need to shim them up, but I'll be able to work it out on CAD first. So fingers crossed for that. That is all going to work out bang on. And that brings us back up to date, weirdly enough. As I say, there's a lot of work going into these horn guides at the minute. I've got to make a lot more of those little fiddly fake grease nipples, because they've all got to go into the faces or into the backs of them horn guides that are on there. I have put that spring in. I've done another one of them brackets for the spring hangers. I've put that spring in. It's gone where it is at the minute, because it's kind of loosely in. The spring has gone tight between the two hooks on the ends. Now it shouldn't do, because everything was done to the published drawings. So the top leaf was 6 inches long. I've put a curve in it, so essentially it's a fraction shorter, but it's gone very tight between the two hooks. Now the two hooks, as I said before, were omitted from the published drawings, so I'm going to have to do more hooks, make up more springs to work out whether I need to trim a bit off the top leaf. A lot of fiddling about, but it needs to have a bit of movement, so it's going to have essentially the spring, as it pushes up, as the wheels go over a bump, the spring pushes up. Even though it's got a curve in it, the top leaf will essentially lengthen, it'll go outwards. If it's already hitting those two hooks, it'll try and bend them out of the way, which I don't want to do. I want it so that it'll have that deflection, the hooks don't interfere. They are there to stop the spring from falling out if the tender came off the track and unweighted in the spring or whatever. So yeah, that's where we're up to with that. That is everything. So what I'm going to do, as it's short and sweet, I'm going to leave you a little bit of footage I took of a BR Standard 2 at Loughborough, from an unusual view. Some may have seen it, some may have not. If you haven't, enjoy, and I'll see you next time. Ta-da.